if we wanted to account for all the victims of US imperialism across history, we would be here not all day, not all week, not all month, not all year, but for years on end. And that is by no means an exaggeration. The scale and magnitude of horrors that US imperialism has unleashed on the world is beyond what we have language for, beyond what historians are capable of documenting, beyond what human memory and imagination can conceive of. Our Home Affairs Minister K. Shanmugam recently wrote a Facebook post titled "Approach to Crime," where he says, "Serious crimes, violent crimes, they can occur with alarming regularity and yet leave barely an imprint on the collective consciousness. People are desensitized." You know what's damn ridiculous about this is he's talking about drugs and not US imperialism. He, like most authoritarians, is a coward who hides. He's a coward who hides behind cruel laws that target individual, vulnerable people with no power, but has no spine to take a stand against the biggest monster, murderer, threat, and terrorist of our times, the US. Our leaders shake hands and do business with terrorists while they arrest peace activists like us. We cannot allow ourselves to be distracted. We cannot let them control and change the meaning of words that our communities use to describe the violence and injustice we feel in our bodies. We cannot let them distort our moral compass or hide behind manufactured villains like the migrant, the poor person, the people who use drugs, when there are very real villains like America staring us right in the face. Most countries in the global south, whether in Africa, Asia, or Latin America, merely wish to develop in peace and improve the conditions of their people. How dare they?
How dare they? How dare they?
The US and its allies, however, will not allow us to live, to survive, to thrive. They want to continue extracting super profits from the global south to enrich the top 1% of wealth owners in the world. Imperialism kills the sovereignty of global south countries every day. It robs these countries of their natural resources, exploits their labor. This region is so rich with resources. The abundant resources of the global south are exploited and used by imperial powers to make the richest and most powerful people in the world even richer, even more powerful, while our communities starve and suffer. Governments in the global south are not allowed to build their own national industries or meet the needs of their own people. They're forced to sell everything they own and make for cheap, and they're forced to buy Western products they cannot afford. How? How will they afford it? Through loans from the West, of course, which they make sure the global south can never pay back. There are countless examples of this oppression. Uranium mines in Niger that were forced to sell only to France at huge discounts. Iranian oil exploited by British and French companies with the lion's share of profits flowing offshore. Call center workers in the Philippines working for US companies for dirt wages. Imperialism is the wholesale theft of our lives, our present, and our future. And what happens when global south leaders, the few brave ones who have, stand up to this pillaging and abuse? The US kills them or kidnaps them. It bombs their countries and wreaks havoc while claiming that it's bringing democracy and rescuing the people from dictators. Do we buy this bullshit? when it's done with all of this, the US's checkmate is installing puppet regimes that do its bidding. While it is impossible to list all of the atrocities of the US over the past few centuries, I want to use the rest of the time I have to name just a few examples. I hope this list fills you with grief, anger, and most importantly, the conviction to take action. Since 1947, the US has been responsible for covert and overt regime changes in over 100 nations. Between 1946 to 2001, the US interfered in foreign elections at least 81 times. It has rained war, sabotage, bombings, and other violent interventions on China, Indonesia, Cambodia, Korea, Laos, Syria, Vietnam, the Congo, Guyana, Somalia, Haiti, Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Libya, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and many, many other nations. The US war machine operates from all of our shores. During America's decades-long war against Vietnam, the US massacred 2 million Vietnamese civilians, injured 5.3 million, and turned 11 million people into refugees in their own country. The US committed a silent genocide of the Filipino people during the Philippine-American War, whereby some estimates they wiped out 12.5% of the national population. US military General Jacob Smith said at the time to his troops, and I quote, "I want no prisoners. I wish you to kill and burn. The more you kill and burn, the more it will please me." US bombings are estimated to have killed over 20% of the population of Korea. US Air Force General Curtis LeMay said in his autobiography, "We burned down just about every city in North and South Korea both. We killed off over 1 million civilian Koreans and drove several million more from their homes." The US doesn't only destroy nations through its military power, it also uses economic power. Unilateral sanctions imposed by the US and the European Union from 1971 to 2021 are associated with 38 million deaths globally. When we hear words like economic sanctions, maybe we don't think about millions of families dying in hunger and poverty, but that is what economic sanctions mean. The US war machine is also responsible for staggering, irreversible damage to wildlife and the environment, exacerbating the climate crisis that poses an existential threat to all of humanity. In the global south, generations of human society remain affected by long-term heavy metal poisoning, cancers, birth defects, lifelong disabilities, and other diseases caused and perpetuated by the US war machine. And US imperialism has destroyed uncountable historical, cultural, architectural, educational, and religious sites around the world. We will never be able to comprehend, let alone recover, the indigenous forms of knowledge, science, medicine, and ways of life that US imperialism has wiped off the face of the earth. Even if we used all the land we had to build memorials, there would not be enough land for the memorials to account for all the lineages that the US has disappeared. And everything that I've just named, it just scratches the tip of the iceberg. So what do we do then? Imperialism may have unparalleled power to destroy, but history has shown time and again that we, the ordinary masses, have the power to rebuild, to resist, and to create. They need working class bodies to fight. They need our fingers to pull the trigger, our brains to develop the technology to kill. We can and must refuse to work in or facilitate war and weapons industries. By the way, they don't call them war and weapons industries, they call them defense. But we know better, right? The horrifying news we wake up to every day is devastating. But we cannot let that paralyze or defeat us. While nothing can bring back what has been lost, and there can never be justice for the atrocities of imperialist powers, the worldwide resistance to US imperialism has never been stronger than it is now. America's mask is coming off. Organized resistance in the global south is gathering momentum. This is the time to fight harder than we have ever before. It is widely observed by analysts that social movements lose momentum, retreat, or face intense repression when they are at the cusp of succeeding. So if they're coming after us, if they're investigating us, if they're arresting us, that doesn't mean we're failing. I know many of us are tired, but collectively, we can find strength that we are not capable of individually. We can and we must do this tired. It is completely untrue. The refrains I see on social media and hear friends quote again and again that the global masses are standing by and watching live stream genocides without caring enough to do anything about it. That the world is looking away, that the world is apathetic. We are the world. Millions of us oppose these wars. Hordes of ordinary people have taken to the streets in various countries to protest imperialism. Do not let them tell you that our fellow people don't care. The reason we haven't succeeded yet is not because we are a minority. It's not because we don't care enough. The sobering truth is that caring is not enough. Expressing ourselves like we're doing here today is not enough. Because those we are up against have military, economic, and political power. We can only defeat them by building organized people power. We only have each other, but there are billions of us. If we get organized, we can defeat imperialism. The working class masses of the world have defeated many monsters in history. They did it by organizing themselves into labor unions, student unions, through sustained resistance, through sacrifice, through any means necessary. We can defeat the monster of US imperialism too. Every small step we take today will make it easier for others to take bigger steps in the future. This, us, here, today, the first anti-imperialist protest in Singapore in decades. Whether this is the first of many or a blip in time depends on what you and I do after today. Join a people's organization today or start one. Jumpa lagi di Medan Aksi. See you again in the field of action.